They would just want you to know, against all available criminology statistics, that everyone is equal under the law.
People are saying very casually that this was done out of racial motives or violation of civil rights. There's not a hint there that anyone used any racial epithet.
So the cops got to use the N-word for it to be racism? You've never heard the phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 epithets? I don't know that people are saying that this cop is racist, but it seems the escalation of these incidents may be a byproduct of a system that's applied unequally and with prejudice. Because if it's not that, what is it?
In this case, the police officer was dealing with a criminal who was resisting arrest. Maybe if Mr. Brown hadn't committed his crimes, right, and this gentleman hadn't resisted arrest, they wouldn't be dead today.
Yeah, or if they didn't choke him. I mean, not everyone who resists arrests. You know what? I think I can do this. Your Honor, may I approach? Not that we're having a trial. Obviously, that was what the grand jury was going to try and get to be done. But if it pleases the court, I would like to introduce that resisting arrest doesn't always lead to this sort of thing. Here's evidence exhibit A.
Come on. No? Oh. Ew, get the off my arm. Okay, get the off. Get off.
She was being a nuisance. Like, really? I didn't even know there was a charge for that.
I'm a good person.
Watch your head. Watch your head. Watch your head.
You're telling me she was less of a menace to society at that time? Now, I understand she straightened her life out and has shown us that she is, and I'm quoting here, a good person, but... Come on, people. Won't anyone admit this is symptomatic of a larger issue?
Joining me now is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. I think there's something bigger than just the individual circumstances.
Thank you! Rand Paul! You know, here's a Republican who has been making an effort to reach out to the black community. He's been talking about voting rights and criminal justice. So this is a start. Give it to us straight. What is the larger issue here?
Some politician put a tax of $5.85 on a pack of cigarettes so that driven cigarettes underground by making them so expensive. But then some politician also had to direct the police to say, hey, we want you arresting people for selling a loose cigarette.
What the are you talking about? Well, I guess now we know what it takes for a senator from Kentucky to admit cigarettes can kill. I don't know what to say. I appreciate the purity of your anti-tax dogma, but the cigarette tax is truly the least salient aspect of this case. It's like saying, you know the problem with the Hindenburg? Government parking regulations. That's it. You know, you got Big Brother over your shoulder going, everybody's got a dock. Honestly, Eric Garner could have been out there with mixtapes or a squeegee or a snow cone, and the same kind of could have happened. For the second time in 10 days, a grand jury, which at least in federal cases has a 99% indictment rate, failed to indict an officer who caused the death of an unarmed citizen. They didn't indict him for anything, not murder, not manslaughter, not even reckless endangerment, which is like 1 degree above a party foul. And for some reason, to question a system producing that result is somehow offensive.
This process has taken place. It is our Constitution. It's the laws we live by. Get over it.
They are tearing down respect for a criminal justice system that goes back to England in the 11th century.
Yeah, so does witch burning and where we drink. But we've continued to improve upon those processes. You know, from what I understand, the criminal justice system has two separate but equally important parts. The police, who investigate crime, and the district attorneys who prosecute. Okay, I got that from TV. Grand juries almost always do what the prosecutor wants. So maybe we need to look at, when it comes to the police, if prosecutors really don't want to indict them because they work with them and they need them and they're on the same show with them. They're colleagues. And that makes for a very uncomfortable situation. Hey, before I try and send you to prison, there's something I gotta ask you. This year, are you my secret Santa? We'll be right back.
There you have it, John Stewart, keeping it real.
Keeping it real. Somebody's got to.
Somebody's got to keep it real.
We're gonna keep it real, Anselm.
You know, and then again, it's John Stewart doing our bidding for us. If that was a person of color presenting that,
oh, definitely,
they're like, "Oh my God,
there you go,
there you go again." All you do is complain. You keep complaining over and over and over and over.
I don't know why you think somebody's out to get you.
It's not what you see. It's a mirage.
Yeah, you know what? That is what makes you crazy. Because they try to make it seem like it's that you're imagining things.
It's not what you see. you did. You thought you saw that.
Don't just do something. Stand there.
Fox gonna. You see? There he is. Look at his size. He's bigger than 5 of them. You know, he's about 250. 5 of them. 5 of them is about 750, and he's bigger than all 5 of them.
Because he has superhuman strength.
Yeah, and people are gonna say, you see, you know, the cops were scared of him because he was bigger than them. And they wouldn't say bigger than him. You know. He was bigger than them. he was bigger than all of them. And it's like, okay, you know, it's just like Darren Wilson. Darren Wilson said, well, you know, he had demons in his eyes. He looked like Hulk Hogan. He was over 250. He was 6'4", 250. Okay, Darren Wilson, how tall are you? Oh, I'm 6'4".
Same height.
Same height. How much you? Well, I'm about 210, 220. And he's much bigger than me. That's what, you know, I mean, when you look at WWE wrestling.
Because you got your big black, as Jimmy the Greek would say.
You know, it's funny. In wrestling, we always had, like, you know, the Mongolian. You know, the Mongolian is going to be black.
The Mongolians aren't black, though.
Mongolians are not black?
No, they're Asian. And those are some big people.
But listen, they got to have some, they have some color in them. They definitely.
Well, I mean, you know,
listen,
it's between China and Russia.
You know, there's black people in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that the real black people that were there from ancient times probably.
Yeah, there's black people in Japan.
So destroyed.
Still today in Japan, you got black people. You know, Brazilian is predominantly black.
Well, of course. I mean, that was where most of the Africans were brought over.
I don't have to tell you that. You know.
Here we have 14 examples. Can I read something to you?
Sure.
Of racism and the criminal justice system. This is written by Bill Quigley, a law professor at Loyola. The biggest crime in the U.S. criminal justice system is that it is a race-based institution where African Americans are directly targeted and punished in much more aggressive way than white people. Saying the U.S. criminal justice system is racist may be politically controversial in some circles, but the facts are overwhelming. No real debate about that. Below I set out numerous examples of these facts, he writes. The question is, are these facts the mistakes of an otherwise good system, or are they evidence that the racist criminal justice system is working exactly as intended? Is the U.S. criminal justice system operated to marginalize and control millions of African Americans? Information on race is available for each step of the criminal justice system, from the use of drugs, police stops, arrests, getting out on bail, legal representation, jury selection, trial, sentencing, prison, parole, and freedom. Look at what the facts show. 1. The U.S. has seen a surge in arrest and putting people in jail over the past 4 decades. Most of the reason is the war on drugs. Yet whites and blacks engage in drug offenses, possession, and sales at roughly comparable rates. According to a report on race and drug enforcement published by Human Rights Watch in May 2008, while African Americans comprise 13% of the U.S. population and 14% of monthly drug users, they are 37% of the people arrested for drug offenses. According to 2009 congressional testimony by Mark Maurer of the Sentencing Project. 2. The police stop blacks and Latinos at a rate much higher than whites. In New York City, where people of color make up about half of the population, 80% of the NYPD stops were blacks and Latinos. When whites were stopped, only 8% were frisked. When blacks and Latinos were stopped, 85% were frisked, according to information provided by the NYPD. The same is true of most places as well. In a California study, the ACLU found blacks are 3 times more likely to be stopped than whites. 3. Since 1970, drug arrests have skyrocketed, rising from 320,000 to close to 1.6 million, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics of the U.S. Department of Justice. African Americans are arrested for drug offenses at rates 2 to 11 times higher than the rate for whites, according to a May 2009 report on disparity in drug arrests by Human Rights Watch. 4. Once arrested, blacks are more likely to remain in prison awaiting trial than whites. For example, the New York State Division of Criminal Justice did a 1995 review of disparities in processing felony arrest and found that in some parts of New York, blacks are 33% more likely to be detained awaiting felony trials than whites facing felony trials. 5. Once arrested, 80% of people in the criminal justice system get a public defender for a lawyer. Race plays a big role here as well. Stop in any urban courtroom and look at the color of the people who are waiting for public defenders. Despite heroic efforts by public defenders, the system gives them much more work and much less money than the prosecution. The American Bar Association, not a radical bunch, reviewed the U.S. public defender system in 2004 and concluded all too often defendants plead guilty even if they are innocent without really understanding their legal rights or what is occurring. The fundamental right to a lawyer that America assumes applies to everyone accused of criminal conduct effectively does not exist in practice for countless of people across the United States. Six African Americans are legally excluded from criminal jury service, according to a June 2010 study published by Equal Justice Initiative. For example, in Houston County, Alabama, 8 out of 10 African Americans qualify for jury but have been struck by prosecution from serving on death penalty cases. 7, trials are rare. Only 3 to 5% of criminal cases even go to trial. The rest are plea bargain. Most African Americans never get a trial. Most plea bargains consist of a promise of a longer sentence if a person exercises their constitutional right to a trial. As a result, people caught up in the system, as the American Bar Association points out, plead guilty even when innocent. Why? As one young man told me recently, who wouldn't rather do 3 years for a crime they didn't commit than risk 25 years for a crime they didn't do? 8. The U.S. Sentencing Commission reported in March 2010 that in the federal system, black offenders receive sentences that are 10 times longer than white offenders for the same crimes. Mark Maurer of the Sentencing Project reports African Americans are 21 times more likely to receive mandatory minimum sentences than white defendants and 20% more likely to be sentenced to prison than white drug defendants. 9, the longer the sentence, the more likely it is that a non-white person will be the one getting it. A July 2009 report by the Sentencing Project found that 2/3 of the people in the U.S. with life sentences are non-white. In New York, it is 83%. 10. As a result, African Americans, who are 13% of the population and 14% of the drug users, are not only 37% of the people arrested for drugs, but 56% of the people in state prisons for drug offenses. Mark Maurer, May 2009, congressional testimony for the Sentencing Project. 11. The U.S. Bureau of Social Statistics concludes that the chance of a black male born in 2001 of going to jail is 32%, or 1 in 3. Latino males have a 17% chance, and white males have a 6% chance. Thus, black boys are 5 times and Latino boys nearly 3 times as likely as white boys to go to jail. 12. So, while African American juvenile youth is but 16% of the population, they are 28% of juvenile arrests. 37% of the youth in juvenile jails, and